In the endless void of the galaxy, where war is not an event but a ceaseless condition, the life of a single soldier is a whisper drowned by the roar of cannon fire. Imagine being thrown into an inferno, not of your making, armed with little more than obedience and a flicker of hope. Here, the Astra Militarum does not fight for glory, for honor, or even survival. It fights because the universe demands it. And you, a mere conscript, are the cog in a machine so vast that your dreams, fears, and humanity are expendable. How far would you go to survive when every day could be your last? If the horrors of war fascinate you, and the truth of what it means to be nothing but a pawn in an immortal conflict chills your bones, then like, share, and subscribe, because this journey into the brutal reality of the Astra Militarum is about to begin. The moment you take your first breath in the Imperium, you are already claimed by it. Life does not belong to you, it belongs to the machinery of war that stretches across a galaxy of endless conflict. Families are hollowed by duty, children molded into soldiers before they can even understand the weight of a name. Birth is not celebrated, it is a quiet registration, a mark on a list that will determine if you are to be raised for comfort or for the battlefield. In some hive cities, the streets themselves are classrooms of survival. Broken bodies, screaming engines, and the ever-present stench of industry form a symphony of inevitability. From the first lullaby filtered through the grinding gears of the city, the conscript learns that life is fragile and death is patient. The Imperium does not wait for consent. Its reach stretches into every home, every family, claiming the children who might otherwise have known a life of safety, of laughter, of dreams. Young boys and girls are observed, measured, and judged not by talent or character, but by their utility in the vast, unfeeling war machine. Some are taken willingly, believing in the stories of honor and glory. Most are not. They are dragged, almost literally, from cradles to conscription lines, their innocence stripped like a garment in the cold wind of necessity. And yet, even in these early moments, the conscript begins to learn endurance, the quiet acceptance that suffering is not a question, but a condition of life. Families disappear quietly in the night, fathers swallowed by endless campaigns, mothers consigned to servitude in factories, brothers and sisters vanishing into recruitment halls. There is no room for sentiment in the machinery of survival, only for obedience and conformity. And within this crucible, the conscript is shaped not by hope or love, but by fear, discipline, and the ever-present shadow of expectation. How does a child learn courage when courage is demanded at the barrel of a gun? How do you form dreams when every morning promises loss? In the Imperium, dreams are luxuries. Survival is the only currency. Yet even in the starkest of conditions, life finds ways to persist. In the narrow corridors of hive cities, children whisper to each other in secret, telling tales of places they have never seen, imagining skies untouched by smoke, waters untainted by acid rain. These whispered fantasies are tiny rebellions, fragile sparks against the grinding reality of conscription. They are laughter in the darkness, a reminder that before becoming a soldier, they were human, small, fragile, and unaware of the enormity of what awaits them. The conscript's journey begins with the ceremonial marking, a ritual as stark as the machinery it serves. Names are etched into lists, parents sign away what little influence they have left, and the child is handed over to the training facilities of the Astra Militarum. There is no farewell that feels sufficient, only the hollow promise of duty. From here, the individual is no longer an individual, they are a number, a face among thousands, destined to serve in a war that has already outlasted the memory of their crime. Every moment of life before this, every lullaby, every scraped knee, every small victory of youth is erased in preparation for the crucible that awaits. And yet in these final days of childhood, there is a strange clarity. The conscript begins to understand the rules of survival, the necessity of obedience, the way fear can be wielded into resilience. They watch the older soldiers, those who have survived longer than most, and begin to imitate the quiet toughness etched into their expression. This is the first lesson of war. Life is harsh, brutal, and unforgiving, but it can be endured. The birth into war is not a moment, it is a process, a slow, unrelenting shaping of flesh and mind, to meet the imperatives of a galaxy that never stops bleeding. The conscript learns that love will not shield them, laughter cannot arm them, and hope is a delicate flame against an eternal night. Yet even as the world closes in with the weight of expectation, even as the shadows lengthen over every street and alley, something endures. The human spirit, fragile and fleeting, insists on existing, learning to bend, to endure and to survive. The child who will become a soldier carries this hidden ember into the training halls, into the blast zones, into the chaos that awaits beyond the horizon of their high. The conscript steps into the first cold, echoing halls of the training facilities, the air thick with the scent of oil, sweat and the distant tang of blood from those who came before. Every footfall reverberates like a warning, a reminder that nothing here is forgiving. The walls seem alive, whispering threats of failure, of punishment, of obliteration, not just of the body, but of the very self. Here individuality is not just unnecessary, it is dangerous. To survive, one must learn to conform, to move in rhythm with the machine, to suppress every instinct that does not serve the Imperium's inexorable designs. The first lessons are deceptively simple: stand, march, obey. Yet in their simplicity lies a terrifying weight. Every misstep is scrutinized, every hesitation catalogued. The conscript begins to realize that survival is measured not by courage or cleverness, but by repetition, endurance and the ability to suppress fear. Fear, after all, is a trait that the Imperium cannot allow. It breeds hesitation, and hesitation breeds death, and so each conscript learns to hide trembling hands, to steady racing hearts, to smile through exhaustion, because the machine does not pause and it never shows mercy. In the dormitories, the nights are no less harsh. Sleep comes fitfully, punctuated by the echoes of drills, the wails of nightmares, the distant, haunting hum of war beyond the walls. Bonds begin to form, not from camaraderie, but from necessity. Shared suffering is the first teacher of loyalty, and those who endure together, who breathe in the same fear, who whisper warnings and prayers in the darkness, may live long enough to become brothers in arms. Yet even these bonds are fragile, constantly tested by the pressure to survive at any cost, by the constant reminder that one's fellow soldier may falter, and that failure is contagious. Meals are functional, emotions stripped from sustenance as surely as they are from the body. Conversation is minimal, often replaced by the silent assessment of skill and endurance. The conscript learns quickly that words can betray weakness, and weakness is a currency more costly than blood. Even laughter is dangerous. Too loud, too free, it must be swallowed, preserved for moments when the body and mind are alone, in the privacy of thought, or in secret whispers, with those who share the same understanding of what life has become. Every day brings new trials, physical and mental. Endurance runs, weapons drills, tactical simulations, and the relentless observation of commanding officers who see every flaw, every hesitation, every flicker of doubt. The conscript begins to shed fragments of the child they once were, the soft expressions, the unguarded smiles, the questions asked without fear of reprisal. These fragments are replaced with something harder, something sharper, the instinct to obey, the reflex to survive, the capacity to endure pain without complaint. And yet beneath the surface, the ember of humanity persists. It is hidden, but it burns quietly, a fragile flame that lights the path through the unyielding darkness of preparation. And then comes the first taste of what awaits beyond the training halls, the reports from the front, the accounts of comrades who have already been consumed by war, their names whispered with reverence or horror, their fates warnings and omen. The conscript sees that there is no guarantee of return, no promise of victory, no shield against the relentless engine of death. And in that realization, fear is no longer abstract. It is a tangible weight pressing against the chest, a constant reminder that survival is a daily negotiation with fate itself. Yet amid this fear, the first glimmers of resolve begin to form. The conscript understands that though the galaxy is merciless, that though the Imperium is indifferent, that though death is inevitable, life must still be lived, endured, and fought for. It is in these early lessons, these small victories of endurance, that the foundation of a soldier is laid. The child who entered the training facility trembling and uncertain begins to emerge as something else, not a hero, not yet, but a vessel prepared for the horrors to come, a mind and body tempered by fire, fear, and discipline. As the first days bleed into weeks, The conscript is no longer just a child of the hive, of the home, of the family. They are a child of war, born into it, shaped by it, and destined to continue its endless cycle. And even in the quietest moments when the body aches and the mind threatens to crumble, the ember of humanity burns, fragile but unyielding, carrying forward the memory of what was lost, and the hope, however small, of what might still be preserved. The conscript's transformation continues silently, without fanfare or ceremony. Each day is a crucible, each task a hammer shaping flesh and mind into instruments of war. In the barracks, the quiet conversations, the shared glances, the unspoken understanding between those who endure the same trials, create a fragile tapestry of connection. These bonds, forged in shared fear and relentless discipline, are a lifeline. They are reminders that while the Imperium demands obedience, the heart still clings to fragments of humanity, still seeks solace in shared suffering, still craves the faint warmth of companionship in a galaxy that offers little comfort. Outside the walls of the training grounds, the world is a testament to the enormity of what the conscript faces. Hive cities rise like mountains of stone and steel, their towers piercing the smog-choked sky. Industrial complexes churn endlessly, the engines of war grinding lives into fuel for the Imperium's endless campaign. Streets teem with citizens hardened by struggle, children scavenging among refuse, and soldiers moving with the precision and detachment of men and women who have long abandoned the illusion of choice. Every sight, every sound, every smell reinforces a single truth. This galaxy does not wait, it consumes, it demands, it shapes all who dwell within it. The conscript walks among this world, absorbing its lessons without recognition, understanding instinctively that to survive is to adapt. Fear is not weakness here, it is a teacher, a guide, a compass pointing towards survival. The conscript learns to read the subtle cues of danger, the twitch of a guard's hand, the distant echo of heavy machinery, the tension in a comrade's posture. Every detail becomes critical, every observation a potential key to life or death. The young soldier begins to understand that awareness is not simply seeing, it is anticipating, predicting, and when necessary, acting without hesitation. In these formative days, the conscript also learns the unspoken hierarchy of survival. Those who assert themselves too quickly, who fail to temper aggression with discipline, are crushed beneath the weight of expectation. Those who falter in obedience face not just punishment, but erasure, reminders that individuality is subordinate to duty. And yet, in quiet corners, the conscript discovers subtle lessons in endurance from observing others. The veteran who moves silently, the drill instructor whose cold eyes hide experience forged in fire, the fellow recruit who masks fear with laughter. These observations, seemingly trivial, become tools, shaping the conscript into someone who can navigate the complexities of life and death in the Astra Militarum. The first taste of combat training introduces a new dimension of fear and revelation. The rifle, cold and unyielding in hand, becomes both an extension of the self and a burden of responsibility. Simulated battles, though controlled, carry the weight of inevitability, the understanding that soon these exercises will be replaced by real conflict, where hesitation is fatal, and victory is measured not by honor, but by survival. Each trigger pull, each shouted command, each calculated movement, etches itself into muscle memory, forging a readiness that is both unnatural and necessary. The conscript learns to act decisively, to obey without question, to reconcile the mind's instinct for preservation with the body's duty to execute order. Amid these lessons, the conscript is haunted by glimpses of what has been left behind, a home, now distant and alien, a family whose faces appear only in fleeting memory, the echo of laughter that no longer exists. These recollections are bittersweet, a reminder of humanity that is at once comforting and painful. The training grounds strip away innocence, yet in the shadows of the mind, the ember of who they once were continues to burn, quiet and defiant. It is this ember, fragile yet persistent, that will carry them forward into the storm of real war, sustaining their spirit when the world demands nothing less than complete surrender. The culmination of this phase of life comes not in a single event, but in the quiet realization that the child has become something else. The conscript now stands at the threshold of the front lines, hardened by the endless grind of training, tempered by fear, sharpened by discipline, and bound to comrades whose survival is entwined with their own. The transformation is profound yet incomplete. There remains a tension between the instinct to survive and the orders that will soon test that instinct to its absolute limit. It is a delicate balance, a constant negotiation between self-preservation and duty, between the ember of humanity and the machine of war that seeks to consume it entirely. As the conscript gazes toward the horizon, the first distant reports of battle reach their ears, explosions that shake the ground, cries that pierce the smoke, and the relentless march of machinery that heralds the arrival of conflict. The stories of those who have come before serve both as warning and inspiration, a reminder that the path ahead will be littered with bodies, memories, and shattered dreams. And yet, even as the weight of inevitability presses down, the conscript takes the first conscious step forward, carrying with them the lessons of birth and preparation, the quiet resilience forged in the shadows of expectation, and the ember of humanity that will, against all odds, endure. In the final moments before departure, the conscript feels a mixture of dread and determination. They are no longer merely children. They are soldiers in waiting, bound to a destiny of conflict that stretches across light years and lifetime. The Imperium does not promise glory, nor does it offer comfort. It demands obedience, endurance, and ultimately the willingness to be consumed for the sake of a galaxy that has little regard for individual life. And yet, in that acceptance, there is a strange clarity, a recognition that to survive is to embrace the inevitability of war, to carry forward the ember of self amidst the unending darkness, and to step boldly into the crucible that awaits beyond the training hall. The life of a conscript begins here, in the liminal space between childhood and the battlefield, where fear and hope, obedience and instinct, humanity and duty collide. And though the road ahead is merciless, the conscript carries within them the first truths of survival, that life, though fragile, persists, that courage is learned, not given, and that even in a galaxy defined by war, the human spirit, however small, continues to endure. The gates of the training grounds close behind the new conscripts like the jaws of a predator. Beyond them lies a world where comfort is non-existent, where every breath taken is a negotiation with exhaustion, and every movement is measured against the unforgiving standard of survival. Here, the Astra Militarum strips away everything that the conscript once was, leaving only what is necessary to endure: obedience, endurance, and an iron-willed instinct to act. The first hours are disorienting. The ground trembles beneath the endless drills, the air is thick with sweat and the tang of gunpowder, and the cries of those who fail echo as both warning and omen. The training is relentless. Dawn breaks with the harsh clang of bells, signaling that rest is over and the day's trials have begun. Conscripts are forced to march in tight formations across miles of rubble-strewn terrain, their bodies screaming for relief while their minds are hammered with tactical instruction. Every misstep, every hesitation, is punished not merely with reprimand, but with labor designed to crush the weak, to reveal cracks in resolve, to expose the fragility of human endurance. And yet, beneath this cruelty, there is a method, a shaping of mind and body into something capable of surviving the horrors that await on the front lines. Weapons drills are the heart of the crucible. Rifles are extensions of the body, tools through which obedience becomes action. Each conscript learns not only the mechanics of loading and firing, but the rhythm of warfare, the cadence of marching fire, the timing of recoil, the unspoken rules of battlefield communication. The instructors are unforgiving, their eyes scanning constantly for weakness, hands that tremble, eyes that falter, bodies that hesitate. These are not merely flaws, they are invitations for the Imperium to correct them with a severity that leaves no room for doubt. The conscript quickly internalizes the lesson. Hesitation can cost lives, and in this crucible, every mistake is magnified 100-fold. Physical endurance becomes a religion. Morning runs stretch across terrain that tests lungs and legs, over obstacles designed to crush spirit and stamina alike. The conscript learns to embrace the pain, to find rhythm in suffering, to push beyond instinctual limits. Every fall, every scrape, every muscle screamed in protest is a building block, shaping a body that will not easily break. And yet, even as the conscript's muscles harden and reflexes sharpen, the mind is never idle. Mental resilience is cultivated alongside physical prowess. Drill instructors introduce scenarios of panic, confusion, and fear, forcing the recruits to act decisively even when the mind screams for retreat.
Here the seeds of discipline are sown, ensuring that instinct aligns with duty. In the barracks, nights offer no true reprieve. Sleep is measured in stolen moments, punctuated by the echo of distant alarms, the occasional shout of an officer, or the whispered fear of a fellow conscript. Conversations are sparse and cautious. Trust is a fragile commodity, earned slowly through shared trial. Bonds begin to form not from comfort or friendship, but from the necessity of survival. Those who endure together learn each other's rhythms, anticipate each other's movements, and silently vow to cover one another's weaknesses. In these quiet moments, humanity flickers, a small rebellion against the crushing weight of the Imperium's demands. The psychological conditioning is as brutal as the physical. Fear is dissected, examined, and weaponized. Instructors deliberately place recruits in situations that evoke panic and uncertainty, then demand flawless execution. Every instinct to run, to hesitate, to question, is suppressed and replaced with obedience. Morality becomes secondary to mission. Compassion becomes a luxury. And yet, paradoxically, these trials also build a strange form of resilience, a recognition that fear is not an enemy, but a tool, a teacher that can guide the conscript toward decisive action. The conscript also witnesses the fate of those who fail. Punishments are not merely corrective, they are demonstrative, meant to etch a permanent memory into the psyche of every observer. Public drills, solitary confinement, physical exhaustion to the point of collapse. These are not cruelty for cruelty's sake, but an unrelenting lesson that only the disciplined survive. And within this environment, the conscript begins to understand that survival is a choice exercised with every breath, every decision, and every action taken under scrutiny. Amid the unyielding rigor, small victories emerge. Mastering a maneuver, successfully executing a drill under pressure, enduring an obstacle course without faltering. Each achievement, though minor in the grand scheme, becomes a source of fragile pride. These victories are fleeting, often overshadowed by the next challenge, yet they are vital. They remind the conscript that progress, no matter how small, is possible, and that survival is not only a test of obedience, but of perseverance, intelligence, and adaptability. Through these trials, the conscript begins to shed the last remnants of childhood. The laughter, the questions, the hesitations, all are replaced with focus, discipline, and an understanding of what is required to endure. Humanity is not lost, but it is tempered, hidden beneath layers of resolve and instinct. By the time the conscript steps onto the simulated battlefield, they are no longer the same person who first entered the training ground. They are something else, a soldier, forged in the crucible of relentless preparation, ready to face the horrors of war with both fear and determination in equal measure. The next phase of training immerses the conscript in simulated combat, designed to mimic the chaos, noise, and terror of real war. Smoke fills the air, blurring vision and distorting shapes. Explosions, artificial but deafening, shake the ground, rattling bones and nerves alike. Commands are shouted over the roar, often contradictory, forcing the conscript to think and act under intense pressure. Every hesitation is noted, every mistake amplified. The environment is a crucible of the mind as well as the body, teaching the recruits that fear must be acknowledged, but never allowed to dominate action. Here, camaraderie is forged in fire. Conscripts learn to rely on one another, not out of friendship, but necessity. In the chaos of simulated battle, survival hinges on the ability to anticipate a comrade's movement, to trust without question, and to act with precision. Bonds form silently, tested constantly by drills that pit instinct against strategy, impulse against discipline. In these moments, the conscript discovers a new form of strength, the power of collective endurance, the quiet knowledge that survival is rarely a solitary endeavor in the Imperium. Weapon mastery intensified. The conscript practices with heavier, more complex arms, their weight a constant reminder of responsibility. Every weapon has a rhythm, a cadence, a language of recoil and aim that must be learned instinctively. Drill instructors insist on perfection. Error is punished with repetition, exhaustion, or humiliation. Gradually, the conscript learns to act without hesitation, to trust reflexes honed under duress, and to integrate fear into function rather than allowing it to paralyze. In these hours, a rifle is no longer a tool, it becomes an extension of body and will, a vital companion in a galaxy that has no mercy. Physical conditioning grows even harsher. Obstacle courses evolve into complex death dances of balance, speed and endurance. Recruits are forced to carry heavy loads across rough terrain, through mud, over fire-scorched fields, and across simulated wreckage. Limbs scream, lungs burn, and the body begs for surrender. But surrender is not an option. The conscript learns to endure beyond instinct, to discover reserves of strength previously unknown. Pain becomes a teacher, guiding each movement, each decision, and each calculated risk. Endurance is not merely physical, it is mental, a recognition that weakness will be exploited, and survival requires every ounce of resolve. Sleep and food remain scarce and unappealing. Nights are punctuated by the sounds of distant alarms, shouting officers, and the restless bodies of fellow conscripts. Meals are functional, barely more than fuel for the body, stripped of comfort or taste. The conscript learns to survive on minimal sustenance, to find rhythm in exhaustion, and to conserve energy for the moments that demand full alertness. These conditions reinforce a vital truth. In the Astra Militarum, efficiency and discipline are the foundations of a life, and indulgence is a vulnerability that the Imperium cannot allow. Mental conditioning intensifies alongside physical preparation. Recruits face exercises designed to push them into panic, to test their limits of focus and reaction. Ambush simulations, moral quandaries and high-pressure, decision-making drills challenge not just their bodies but their mind. Every action is scrutinized, every choice judged for its effectiveness, speed and adherence to orders. The conscript begins to internalize a new form of thinking, one that balances instinct with discipline, fear with action, and humanity with the harsh requirements of survival. Through this relentless regimen, the conscript begins to emerge as something new, a soldier, not yet seasoned by the battlefield, but shaped by the crucible of preparation. The body is hardened, reflexes sharpened, and mind attuned to the rhythms of war. Yet beneath this exterior of discipline, the ember of humanity flickers. It is small, fragile, and often hidden, but it endures, providing a thread of connection to the person the conscript once was, and a reminder of what they are fighting to survive. By the end of this phase, the conscript is no longer merely a child molded by circumstance. They have become a participant in a machine, far greater than themselves, a single cog in the vast engine of the Imperium. They understand fear, endure pain, and begin to see the truth of obedience as a tool, not a burden. And as the day draws to a close, with body exhausted and mind strained, the conscript recognizes the reality of the journey ahead. The front lines await, and the crucible has only just begun. The last stage of training pushes the conscript to the edge of endurance, testing every skill learned and every lesson absorbed. Simulations now mimic the unpredictable chaos of real war. Explosions erupt without warning, smoke clouds vision, and the shriek of distant artillery pierces the ears. Drill instructors no longer guide each movement, they watch silently, evaluating every reaction, every decision, every flicker of hesitation. The conscript must act instinctively, drawing upon muscle memory, instinct and fear itself to survive the orchestrated bedlam. In these moments, the line between practice and reality blurs. Every failure carries weight, every success is a step closer to survival, and every moment becomes a lesson in precision, focus and endurance. Punishments are no longer occasional, they are constant. Recruits who falter in the chaos are subjected to grueling physical tasks, forced repetitions, or solitary confinement. These punishments are not cruel for cruelty's sake, they are necessary, brutal methods of reinforcing discipline and obedience. The conscript learns to anticipate consequences, to act decisively under pressure, and to internalize the cold truth that survival depends on unwavering attention
and immediate response. Every bruise, every blister, every sleepless night becomes a marker of resilience, a testament to the forging of the body and mind into a soldier capable of enduring the unforgiving front lines. During these final weeks, the conscript also faces the psychological trials that will define the edge of their endurance. Officers orchestrate moral dilemmas and high-stakes exercises designed to provoke fear, anger, and doubt. Decisions must be made in seconds with incomplete information and no time for hesitation. Each choice carries weight, often separating success from failure, survival from death. The conscript learns to navigate the fog of uncertainty, to suppress panic and to act with a clarity born of repeated exposure to chaos. The mind becomes as trained as the body, hardened to endure stress while remaining capable of executing precise action. At night, when sleep is stolen or fragmented, the conscript contemplates the purpose of it all. Dreams of home, of family, of childhood pleasures intrude like ghosts in the mind, fleeting yet painful. These glimpses of the past are reminders of what has been lost, but they also become sources of resilience. They are the ember of humanity carried quietly beneath layers of discipline and fear. The conscript begins to understand that while the body and mind are forged by the crucible of training, the soul, the fragile, defiant ember of self, must be preserved if one is to endure the realities of war without being consumed entirely by it. Finally, the culminating exercise arrives, a full-scale simulated assault, designed to replicate the conditions of a real battlefield with terrifying fidelity. The conscript moves in formation with fellow recruits, senses sharpened, body conditioned and mind attuned to instinctive obedience. Explosions roar, smoke obscures vision, and the cries of simulated casualties fill the air. Every order must be executed with precision, every movement synchronized, every thought disciplined. In this crucible, the conscript faces their first taste of true responsibility, not just for themselves, but for those around them. Lives, even simulated, are contingent on their actions, and the weight of that realization imprints itself indelibly on the mind. Emerging from this final trial, the conscript is no longer the person who first entered the training grounds. The body is hardened, the mind sharpened, and reflexes honed to instinctive precision. Fear has been acknowledged, studied, and integrated into action rather than allowed to dominate. Obedience is second nature, endurance a constant companion, and the ember of humanity burns quietly beneath layers of discipline. They have been forged in the crucible, tested at the edge of physical and mental limits, and prepared for the merciless realities of the front lines. And yet, the conscript knows the truth that every veteran carries silently. No amount of training can truly prepare one for the front lines. The horrors that await are not simulations or exercises, they are real, chaotic, and indiscriminate. Death is patient, constant, and merciless. Fear will return, stronger and more insistent. Pain will become a companion rather than a warning. The conscript has been armed with skill, discipline, and resilience, but only the unbroken ember of the human spirit can carry them through what lies ahead. As the gates of the training facility open for the final time, revealing the horizon of the front lines, the conscript steps forward with a mixture of dread, determination, and quiet resolve. The crucible has done its work. The child who entered trembled with uncertainty. The soldier who emerges is measured, disciplined, and aware of the cost that life demands. Every step forward is a negotiation with fate, a deliberate act of survival, and a continuation of the transformation that began at birth. The conscript is ready, not for glory, not for honor, but for the unrelenting demand of the galaxy to endure, to obey, and to survive. And so, the journey into the heart of war begins, with the lessons of the crucible etched into every movement, thought, and heartbeat, a preparation not for life, but for the unending cycle of death and survival that defines existence in the Astra Militarum. The day of departure arrives with a silence that feels heavier than any explosion. The conscripts, hardened by training yet still fragile in spirit, gather at the gates of the barracks, their faces masks of determination layered over unspoken fear. Beyond the walls lies the galaxy, scarred by centuries of conflict, where planets are nothing more than chessboards for the Imperium's endless campaigns. Every footstep toward the transport ships is a step away from childhood, from home, from the remnants of the self that still clings to hope. The transport vessels are colossal, metal behemoths groaning under the weight of thousands of soldiers, supplies, and the inevitable sense of mortality. Inside, the air is thick with anticipation, the metallic tang of machinery, and the faint, bitter odor of fear. Conversations are minimal, stifled by nerves and the oppressive sense of inevitability. Some conscripts clutch letters from home as talismans against despair, while others silently calculate the odds of survival, their eyes scanning the faces of comrades for signs of courage or weakness. Here, the first lesson of the front is clear: nothing is predictable, and everything is temporary. As the vessels break orbit, the stars stretch into lines, a blur that mirrors the acceleration of anxiety coursing through every conscript. The journey is long, filled with drills, inspections, and endless reminders that the universe outside is merciless, indifferent, and hungry. Each conscript is acutely aware that the skills honed in the training grounds will soon be tested against enemies that do not forgive mistakes, against environments that do not accommodate weakness, and against war itself in its rawest, most brutal form. The call to the front is more than a movement of troops. It is an initiation into a reality that few survive intact. Every story whispered among the recruits, every rumor of planets consumed by fire, or cities erased by tyrannid swarms, is a prelude to what awaits. Fear is no longer abstract. It is tactile, pressing against the chest with every step, whispering in the mind with every heartbeat. The conscript feels the weight of thousands of lives around them, each one carrying the same mixture of hope, dread, and quiet desperation. In this crucible, individuality matters little. Survival depends on the cohesion of the unit, on instinct aligned with discipline, and on the ability to function under pressures that strip away every comfort and certainty. Commissars, cold and unyielding, patrol the transport ships with eyes like sharpened steel. Their presence is a constant reminder that disobedience is not tolerated, hesitation is punished, and fear must be disciplined into action. Even seasoned soldiers move with precision in their gaze, knowing that any lapse, however slight, could become fatal. For the conscript, the commissar embodies both terror and structure, a living representation of the Imperium's absolute authority. Obedience is survival, hesitation is death. And under this relentless scrutiny, the conscript internalizes one of the most important lessons of the front: control the fear, or it will control you. The first sight of a war-torn planet is unforgettable. From the observation decks, the conscripts see landscapes shattered by decades of conflict, skies choked with ash, rivers tainted with chemical runoff, cities reduced to skeletal remains of stone and steel. The ground is pockmarked with craters, twisted vehicles, and the remnants of fortifications both abandoned and destroyed. The scale of destruction is overwhelming, yet it is also precise, almost deliberate, a testament to the unyielding power of the Imperium and the enemies it faces. In this panorama of ruin, the conscript grasps the true magnitude of their mission. They are stepping into a world where every moment could be their last, and every decision carries weight far beyond their own survival. Orders are issued with mechanical precision. Units are deployed from the transport, moving across landscapes scarred by previous battles. The conscript learns quickly that the front does not wait for courage, morality, or hesitation. It waits only for action, obedience, and the ability to endure. Every step forward is calculated, every movement synchronized, every instinct tempered by the training that has brought them to this point. And yet beneath the discipline, the conscript feels the undeniable pull of fear, the primal recognition that the universe is vast, indifferent, and often lethal. In the midst of this, camaraderie grows stronger. Those who have endured training together now face the same terror in reality, and bonds are solidified not through comfort, but through shared vulnerability and reliance. A glance, a subtle signal, a quick adjustment of stance, all communicate trust, a recognition that survival is as much about unity as skill. The conscript begins to understand that while fear is personal, survival is collective. The front lines are merciless, and only the cohesive will endure. The call to the front is not dramatic or heroic. It is quiet, relentless, and all-consuming. There are no speeches, no grand gestures, only the weight of the journey, and the knowledge that the world they step onto has already claimed countless lives. Each conscript carries the lessons of training, the ember of humanity hidden beneath layers of discipline, and a fragile hope that they will emerge from the storm intact. But deep down, they know that survival will demand everything they have, and that the front lines will test not only their bodies and minds, but the very essence of who they are. The first engagement on the front lines is an awakening unlike any the conscript has known. The ground trembles beneath the weight of mechanized armor, artillery fire rumbles in the distance, and the sky itself seems aflame with tracer rounds and exploding munition. Every sense is assaulted, the stench of smoke and burnt metal, the deafening roar of weapons, the acrid tang of fear and blood. Here, theory meets reality, and the conscript realizes that the lessons of the training grounds are only partially adequate. Survival demands adaptation, focus, and the ability to act under conditions that defy expectation. Orders are crisp, unyielding,
and delivered with a clarity that leaves no room for hesitation. The conscript moves in formation, shoulder to shoulder with comrades, every step coordinated, every action a cog in the vast machinery of war. The rhythm of battle is chaotic, yet strangely precise, a symphony of destruction, where discipline and instinct must merge seamless. Every movement is a negotiation with instinct and fear, every decision is a battle between self-preservation and obedience. The conscript quickly learns that hesitation is a luxury no one can afford, and even small errors can have catastrophic consequences. Amid the chaos, the conscript observes the enemy for the first time, not in simulations or training, but as living, relentless threats. Tyranids skitter and surge across the battlefield like a tide of instinct and hunger. Chaos cultists strike with unpredictable fury, their eyes glinting with madness, their attacks designed to exploit every weakness. Xenos forces advance with alien precision, using technology and tactics that defy conventional understanding. Fear, which was once abstract, is now tangible, a living force pressing against every nerve and thought. Survival depends not only on training but on the ability to react, adapt, and endure. The bonds between comrades deepen instantly. Those who endured drills and punishment together now share the unspoken knowledge that life depends on collective awareness. A glance, a gesture, a shift in stance communicates volumes in the noise of battle. Trust becomes the foundation of survival, and the conscript learns to read these signals instinctively. Those who falter are carried forward, protected by the discipline and experience of those who endure alongside them. In these moments, humanity persists, not in isolation, but in connection, in mutual reliance, in the quiet determination to ensure that at least one more step can be taken, one more breath drawn. Amid these lessons, fear and doubt are constant companions. The conscript witnesses death in ways unimaginable during training, comrades consumed by sudden blasts, dismembered by artillery, or torn apart by alien claws. The body reacts before the mind can comprehend, adrenaline surging in a mix of terror and action. Yet, amidst the carnage, the conscript finds clarity. Survival is not heroic, it is procedural, instinctive, disciplined. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the mastery of. The conscript begins to internalize that every heartbeat, every movement, every calculated act of obedience is a choice between life and oblivion. The front lines teach lessons that no drill instructor could fully convey. Chaos is constant. Danger is indiscriminate. The ground is unstable, the air thick with the remnants of smoke and acid, and the line between life and death is razor thin. The conscript learns to act while processing terror, to maintain awareness while engulfed in sensory overload, and to execute orders without allowing the mind to fracture under pressure. Here, the ember of humanity flickers in tandem with instinct, the drive to endure, to protect, to survive, sustained by discipline and mutual reliance. Each day at the front is a battle against both the enemy and the self. Hunger, exhaustion, and fear compound with the ever-present threat of annihilation. Sleep, when it comes, is fitful and brief, punctuated by distant explosions, screams, and the mechanical growl of advancing war machine. Food is rationed, insufficient, and often eaten in silence, a reminder that survival is paramount and comfort is a luxury that the Imperium cannot afford. The conscript learns to endure both the physical and psychological attrition of war, to conserve energy, and to act decisively when instinct demands immediate response. Amid the terror, there are fleeting moments of clarity and understanding. The conscript begins to see the patterns of the battlefield, the cadence of enemy movements, the strategies embedded within chaos. Awareness becomes not just survival, but mastery, a recognition that even in destruction there is order, and that discipline, training, and instinct can carve pathways through the maelstrom of death. These insights, small and often fragile, form the foundation of experience that will serve the conscript in battles yet to come. The call to the front is relentless, unyielding, and immersive. There is no respite, no pause, and no guarantee of survival. Yet, within this chaos, the conscript begins to internalize the most vital lesson of all. To endure is to act, to obey, and to survive. Every heartbeat, every step, every deliberate choice is a defiance against the inevitability of death, a testament to resilience, and a step toward becoming a soldier forged not just by training, but by the merciless reality of war itself. As the days on the front lines stretch into weeks, the conscript's understanding of war deepens, transforming from theoretical knowledge into instinctual survival. Every explosion, every scream, Every motion on the battlefield becomes a piece of a greater pattern, a rhythm that must be followed to endure. The ground itself becomes a teacher, cratered, scarred, and unstable. It dictates movement, forces adaptation, and reminds the conscript that even the simplest step can carry fatal consequences.
Awareness is no longer optional. It is the difference between life and death. In the heat of battle, the conscript observes both the fragility and resilience of humanity. Comrades fall, yet others rise, driven by discipline, training, and the unspoken bonds that have become lifeline. Acts of bravery are not grandiose. They are moments of instinctive reaction, decisions made in a heartbeat to protect oneself or others. Fear is constant, but courage, tempered by experience and necessity, emerges as a practical tool, a method of surviving where instinct alone would fail. The conscript learns that heroism is not the absence of fear, but the mastery of it under impossible circumstances. The enemies faced on the front lines are as diverse as they are relentless. Tyrannid swarms descend with horrifying synchronicity, overwhelming positions with sheer numbers and biological ingenuity. Chaos cultists strike unpredictably, their madness turning each encounter into a dangerous puzzle of instinct versus insanity. Xenos forces employ technology and tactics that defy conventional understanding, challenging the conscript to adapt rapidly or perish. Each engagement reinforces a fundamental truth: the front lines are a test not of ideals but of endurance, awareness, and the relentless application of learned skill. During these battles, the conscript comes to understand the weight of command and responsibility, even in the absence of formal rank. Every movement, every reaction, has consequences that ripple through the unit. Mistakes can cost lives, hesitation can mean annihilation, and a single moment of clarity can save comrades from death. This awareness shapes the conscript, instilling a sense of accountability that becomes inseparable from survival. They are no longer merely following orders. They are active participants in a system where their actions can tip the balance between survival and catastrophe. Amid the chaos, the ember of humanity persists. Small gestures, an unspoken signal, a shared ration, a protective maneuver, remind the conscript that survival is not a solitary endeavor. Even in the merciless grind of war, bonds are formed through shared fear and mutual reliance. These connections, fragile yet essential, offer a glimmer of hope in a universe defined by destruction. They are the threads that weave humanity into the fabric of war, sustaining the spirit even as the body and mind are pushed to the brink. Fatigue becomes a constant companion. Days blur into nights, and the distinction between waking and dreaming grows tenuous. Hunger gnaws at the body, exhaustion dulls the mind, and the ever-present specter of death looms over every action. Yet, in this relentless attrition, the conscript discovers resilience beyond imagination. They learn to operate under extreme duress, to make decisions while exhausted, and to maintain focus when every instinct urges surrender. This endurance, forged in the crucible of continuous exposure to danger, is the hallmark of the soldier on the front line. The conscript also learns that survival is an ongoing negotiation with fear. It is neither eliminated nor ignored. It is integrated into action. Awareness of danger sharpens reflexes, guides decisions, and reinforces discipline. Fear becomes a teacher, a companion, and a constant reminder that the front lines demand vigilance, precision, and the unflinching application of training. Those who master this balance, acknowledging fear without allowing it to dominate, begin to transcend mere survival, becoming soldiers capable of enduring the unrelenting reality of the Imperium's war. Each victory, each narrow escape, each calculated act of endurance reinforces the lessons instilled during training. The conscript becomes aware that war is not about glory or heroism. It is about adaptation, discipline, and the continuous negotiation between life and death. Every heartbeat is precious, every movement deliberate, every instinct tempered by experience. Survival is a product of training, fear management, and the quiet ember of humanity that refuses to be extinguished, even in the heart of the galaxy's most merciless conflict. By the end of this phase, the conscript has undergone a profound transformation. The child who once trembled at the gates of the barracks is now a soldier forged by training, tempered by fear, and hardened by the front lines. Reflexes are precise, discipline unwavering, and awareness acute. The conscript understands that the battlefield is an environment where only the prepared survive, and where every action carries the weight of life and death. Humanity endures, hidden beneath layers of instinct,
discipline and necessity, but it remains the ember that sustains the soldier through the relentless darkness of war. And as the conscript moves forward, step by step, across scarred landscapes and blasted cities, they carry with them the culmination of every lesson learned, the importance of obedience, the necessity of endurance, the strength found in camaraderie, and the mastery of fear as a tool rather than a hindrance. The call to the front has been answered, and the journey into the merciless reality of the Astra Militarum continues. Each engagement, each choice, each heartbeat is now part of the unending narrative of survival, shaping the conscript into a soldier not yet seasoned, but forever changed by the crucible of war. War is relentless, but between the storms of gunfire and explosions, there exists a strange, uneasy calm. The conscript learns quickly that life between battles is no relief, no sanctuary. It is merely another facet of endurance. Trenches, bunkers, and shattered cities become temporary homes, spaces where fear is paused but never absent, where the mind struggles against both boredom and anticipation. Every moment is a balance. The body craves rest, but the mind races with memories of past engagements and the unspoken knowledge of what is yet to come. The first lesson of these intervals is observation. The battlefield never truly sleeps. Scavengers, patrols, and distant enemy movements are constant reminders that danger is always present, even in apparent stillness. The conscript learns to read subtle signs, the shift of smoke in the wind, the glint of metal on distant terrain, the faint sound of movement beyond cover. Every sound, every motion, every shadow is examined, catalogued and analyzed. Survival in these moments depends not on action, but on awareness, the quiet, patient understanding that even in calm, the front lines are unforgiving. Routine becomes a form of solace and discipline. Equipment is maintained meticulously. Rifles are cleaned, ammunition checked, armor inspected. Each action, however small, reinforces order in a world defined by chaos. Even the simplest tasks, barracks tidied, rations distributed, communications maintained, carry the weight of survival. Neglect, the conscript learns, can be fatal. A poorly maintained weapon, a miscalculated patrol, or a moment of inattention could mean the difference between life and death. In the next engagement, the mind wanders inevitably to what has been left behind: home, family, fleeting memories of laughter and warmth. These recollections are bittersweet, a reminder of life that once was and may never return. The conscript clings to them quietly, hidden beneath layers of discipline and fear. They are not indulgences, but sustenance for the spirit, fragile threads of humanity preserved amidst the machinery of war. Even amidst death and devastation, these memories anchor the soldier to what they still are, beneath the layers of survival and obedience. Conversations among comrades take on a new significance in these intervals. Stories, jokes, and whispered confessions become lifelines, fragile yet vital. Shared fear transforms into shared resilience. The conscript learns that connection is as crucial as weapon proficiency or tactical awareness. The battlefield may consume bodies, but the bonds forged in these moments sustain the mind and spirit, reminding the soldier that survival is rarely solitary. Even in the void between conflicts, humanity persists in subtle gestures of care, mutual observation, and unspoken understanding. Sleep, when it comes, is fragmented and uneasy. The body demands rest, but the mind is vigilant, scanning for threats, replaying past engagements, anticipating the next. Dreams are haunted by images of fire, blood, and the relentless advance of enemies. The conscript learns to rest without surrendering vigilance, to find moments of mental reprieve even when the world offers none. These skills, patience, awareness, and controlled relaxation become tools of endurance, essential for surviving both the battles to come and the silent threats that linger between them. Rations are functional, minimal, and shared with a quiet understanding of scarcity. Food becomes fuel rather than comfort, a reminder that survival is measured in pragmatism rather than pleasure. Water is rationed, every sip is calculated. Hygiene is limited to what is necessary to prevent infection and maintain readiness. The conscript learns quickly that indulgence is a liability, that comfort is a luxury forbidden by circumstance, and that efficiency is survival. Even in these quieter moments, discipline and awareness dominate life. Yet amidst monotony, small victories emerge. A clean weapon, a correctly executed patrol, a moment of camaraderie. These are fleeting, but they anchor the soldier. They are reminders that even between battles, skill, awareness, and resilience are cultivated. Each minor success reinforces the conscript's confidence, creating a fragile but essential sense of control over a life defined by chaos. It is in these intervals, often overlooked, that the foundations of endurance are strengthened, preparing the soldier for the inevitable violence to come. The conscript also observes the toll of war on others. Veterans, hardened and scarred, move with measured precision, their eyes reflecting experiences too painful to speak aloud. Some carry visible injuries, others bear the invisible weight of trauma, each step a testament to survival. These observations offer lessons beyond tactics and discipline. They illustrate the cost of existence on the front lines, the burden of endurance, and the quiet, persistent struggle to retain humanity amidst devastation. The conscript internalizes these lessons, understanding that survival is never without consequence, and that the ember of self must be nurtured even when life demands submission. In the quiet moments, reflection becomes both a challenge and a necessity. The conscript contemplates the fragility of life, the inevitability of death, and the weight of each decision. They recognize that the battlefield is not merely a place of action, but a crucible of thought, patience, and endurance. Each breath, each movement, each choice carries significance, and awareness of these truths is essential for maintaining both sanity and survival. And so, life between battles is endured with the same discipline, vigilance, and quiet determination that has defined the conscript's existence since training began. These intervals, though devoid of immediate danger, are no less demanding than the battlefield itself. They are a test of patience, awareness, and mental fortitude, ensuring that when the next call to action comes, the soldier is prepared not only to fight, but to survive, endure, and preserve the ember of humanity that remains hidden beneath layers of discipline and fear. The conscript soon learns that even in the quiet, the front lines are never truly still. Scavengers and deserters move through the ruins like shadows, predators hunting both enemy and prey alike. Distant artillery continues its relentless cadence, a constant reminder that danger can strike without warning. Every sound is analyzed, every movement scrutinized. Awareness becomes a ritual. Eyes scan the horizon, fingers trace weapons for readiness, and every instinct is sharpened by the knowledge that even in moments of apparent calm, death is patient and unyielding. Commissars patrol the encampments with unwavering vigilance, reminding all that discipline extends beyond the battlefield. Obedience is not optional, even when the immediate threat is absent. A conscript caught slacking in duties, neglecting a weapon, or failing to maintain formation faces punishment swift and unforgiving. The weight of authority is ever present, a constant assertion that survival depends not only on skill, but on the rigid structure imposed by the imperium. In these intervals, discipline becomes second nature, ingrained into every motion, thought, and habit. Amid this tension, the conscript discovers the subtle ways soldiers cling to remnants of life before war. A token from home, a scratched engraving on a wall, or a shared memory whispered quietly between comrades becomes a fragile link to the world outside. These small acts are not mere sentimentality, they are survival tools. The ember of humanity, though dimmed by fear and necessity, is nurtured in these quiet moments, providing the conscript with a mental and emotional foothold that ensures endurance when the violence inevitably resumes. The conscript also observes the coping mechanisms of veterans. Some retreat inward, silent and unyielding, their gaze distant yet piercing. Others cling to humor, a brittle shield against despair, offering levity in whispered jokes that mask the trauma beneath. Some train relentlessly, repeating drills with obsessive precision to maintain a sense of control. Each approach offers a lesson in resilience, teaching the conscript that survival is as much about managing fear and mental strain as it is about physical readiness. Adaptation, the conscript realizes, is survival in all its forms. Training continues even between battles, though subtly and unrelentingly. Weapon drills, tactical simulations, and physical conditioning are interwoven into daily routines. These exercises, often imperceptible, reinforce the soldier's reflexes, decision-making, and endurance. The conscript learns that the battlefield never truly leaves the mind,
Preparation is continuous, unending, and integral to survival. Each repetition strengthens the connection between instinct and action, ensuring that when chaos returns, the body and mind act with precision honed by constant practice. Food and water remain functional, never plentiful, and often rationed with strict calculation. The conscript adapts to minimal sustenance, learning to conserve energy and maintain awareness even while hungry. Meals are not comfort, they are fuel, a vital tool for enduring both the immediate and anticipated threats of the front lines. Hygiene is maintained with grim efficiency, enough to prevent illness, infection, or weakness, but never indulged. Survival demands sacrifice in every aspect of life, and the conscript internalizes this truth with quiet determination. Sleep is brief and uneasy, yet it becomes a skill in itself. The conscript learns to rest without surrendering vigilance, to achieve mental reprieve while the body endures discomfort and the mind anticipates danger. Dreams are fragmented, often invaded by memories of past battles, the screams of the fallen, or the looming shadow of the next engagement. Yet even these moments of unrest teach endurance, reminding the conscript that survival is an ongoing negotiation with both the external threats and the internal struggles of fear and fatigue. Despite monotony, the conscript finds moments of purpose. Maintaining weapons, patrolling terrain, and observing enemy movements are not trivial. They are vital to survival. Each task, each small achievement reinforces confidence, focus, and readiness. The front lines are as much a test of mental resilience as they are of physical prowess, and these moments between battles ensure that the conscript is sharpened, disciplined, and prepared for the unrelenting demands that lie ahead. The ember of humanity persists through connection, reflection, and adaptation. Comrades share silent understanding, offer brief comfort, or exchange practical advice, forming bonds that sustain both mind and spirit. In these intervals, the conscript recognizes that survival is not merely a personal endeavor, it is collective. Awareness, discipline, and vigilance are enhanced through mutual reliance. Humanity survives not in isolation, but in these small shared gestures that defy the chaos surrounding them. And so, life between battles is endured as another form of war, a continuous exercise in observation, discipline, endurance, and quiet resilience. The conscript understands that the front lines demand more than courage in combat. They demand preparation, awareness, and the ability to sustain both body and spirit amidst the relentless attrition of war. Every moment, every breath, every choice is a rehearsal for survival, ensuring that when the next call to action arrives, the conscript will be ready to endure, to obey, and to survive. The conscript wrestles with fear, doubt, and the creeping weight of hopelessness. Memories of fallen comrades, past mistakes, and the relentless carnage of the front lines infiltrate the mind during these intervals. Each thought, each recollection, carries the potential to unravel discipline, to weaken resolve, or to shatter the fragile ember of humanity preserved within. Survival here is not measured in gunfire or battlefield skill, but in the quiet mastery of emotion, patience, and thought. The conscript learns to compartmentalize. Fear is acknowledged, but it does not dominate. Grief is recognized, but it is restrained. Doubt is examined, but it is transformed into vigilance. Each moment of internal struggle becomes a training ground for mental resilience, a rehearsal for the moments when action must be taken despite terror, fatigue, or uncertainty. These intervals, though devoid of immediate combat, are as rigorous as any battle, shaping the soldier's mind with subtle but unyielding pressure. Observation remains paramount. From the vantage of trenches, ruined buildings, or temporary encampments, the conscript studies the land and the enemy. Scars of previous battles tell stories of failed defenses, of tactical maneuvers, of victories hard won and losses tragic. Each detail is noted, catalogued, and stored, forming a mental map of the battlefield. Even when the enemy is distant or invisible, the conscript's awareness never rests. Survival depends on vigilance as much as action. The quiet intervals are opportunities to refine perception, anticipate threats, and prepare for the chaos that inevitably returns. Camaraderie deepens further in these moments of shared endurance. Soldiers learn to read each other without words, to anticipate reactions, to offer support through small gestures, to communicate trust silently. These connections become lifelines, offering both emotional support and practical advantage. The conscript realizes that survival is rarely an individual achievement, it is collective, built upon trust, coordination, and mutual vigilance. In these subtle, often overlooked interactions, the ember of humanity glows brightest, a quiet defiance against the consuming machinery of war. Routine, once mundane, becomes a lifeline. The conscript engages in weapon maintenance, patrol drills, ration organization, and tactical rehearsals, not out of obligation alone, but as a method of reinforcing control in a world where chaos reigns. Each action, precise and deliberate, strengthens muscle memory, sharpens reflexes, and reinforces mental clarity. These habits, ingrained over time, become automatic, ensuring that even when fear and exhaustion peak, discipline and preparedness remain intact. The intervals between battles are, paradoxically, where survival is rehearsed and mastery quietly refined. Sleep, minimal as it is, becomes a practice in endurance and mindfulness. The conscript learns to rest while maintaining awareness, to soothe the body without surrendering the mind, and to navigate the thin boundary between vigilance and unconsciousness. Even in dreams, the mind wrestles with images of fire, smoke, and the unpredictable horrors of the front line. Yet these moments are instructive. They teach adaptation, mental fortitude, and the ability to function when instinct and fear collide. Sleep in this context is both a necessity and a training ground, a rehearsal for the next test of survival. Food and water, though scarce, are rationed with precise calculation. Meals are functional, devoid of pleasure, and consumed with efficiency. The conscript learns to endure hunger, to maintain energy, and to operate effectively under suboptimal conditions. Even the smallest indulgence is a liability. Survival depends on pragmatism, not comfort. Every ration, every sip of water, every bit of energy preserved contributes to the larger goal, enduring the relentless demands of the front line. In these intervals, the conscript witnesses both endurance and fragility among comrades. Veterans exhibit quiet mastery, performing tasks with precision, while concealing the toll of accumulated trauma. Some cling to humor, others retreat inward, but all carry the unspoken weight of countless battles. Observing them, the conscript internalizes lessons beyond training: the cost of survival, the fragility of life, and the importance of preserving the ember of humanity, even as the body and mind endure unceasing stress. Finally, moments of reflection, though fleeting, are vital. The conscript contemplates the nature of survival, the inevitability of death, and the significance of every choice made. Awareness, discipline, and resilience are reaffirmed. Even in the absence of direct combat, life between battles is a crucible, testing patience, perception, and mental endurance. These moments, though quiet, are essential to the soldier's evolution. Preparation, not for glory, but for survival. Awareness, not for comfort, but for life. And endurance, not for ease, but for the relentless reality of war. And so, life between battles is endured with the same vigilance, discipline, and quiet determination that defines every other aspect of existence on the front lines. The conscript understands that survival is continuous, requiring mental and physical preparation at all times. Every glance, every action, every choice in these intervals contributes to the larger struggle, to endure, to obey, and to persist amidst the unrelenting pressures of the galaxy's most merciless conflict. Humanity persists quietly, resilience is forged silently, and the soldier emerges ready for the next storm, carrying the lessons of patience, observation, and discipline into the inevitable chaos that lies ahead. The first true taste of battle is unlike any drill, any simulation, any imagined scenario from the training grounds. It is sudden, chaotic, and unrelenting. The conscript feels the ground shudder beneath the relentless pounding of artillery, hears the whine of incoming ordnance, and smells the acrid tang of smoke, burnt flesh, and destruction. Fear, once theoretical, becomes visceral, a living pulse in the chest that demands attention even as instinct urges action. Orders are sharp, delivered with an urgency that brooks no hesitation. The conscript moves as part of a larger formation, shoulder to shoulder with comrades, every motion synchronized, every decision calibrated by training and necessity. Yet the battlefield defies predictability. Explosions erupt in unexpected places, enemy fire arcs with lethal precision,
and the chaos of combat envelops every sense. The lessons of the training grounds provide a foundation, but only experience can teach the conscript how to navigate this maelstrom of destruction. Enemies strike with both purpose and unpredictability. Tyranids swarm with alien coordination, overwhelming positions with sheer numbers and predatory instinct. Chaos cultists attack with frenzied, unpredictable fury, exploiting fear and confusion at every opportunity. Xenos forces use advanced technology, manipulating terrain and strategy in ways that challenge the conscript's perception and reaction. Survival demands instinct, discipline, and adaptability. Every step, every aim, every decision is measured against the relentless calculus of life and death. The conscript's bonds with comrades become paramount. Trust, forged in training and reinforced in moments between battles, is tested under fire. A glance, a signal, a shared maneuver conveys meaning without words, coordinating survival in the face of unrelenting chaos. Those who hesitate are at risk. Those who act in concert endure. The soldier learns that the front lines are not a solitary trial, but a collective struggle, where unity is as essential as skill, and where human connection can tip the scales between life and death. Fear is both companion and teacher. Every scream, every flash of destruction, every glimpse of the enemy is a lesson in vigilance, reaction, and controlled action. The conscript discovers that courage is not the absence of fear, but the ability to master it, to channel it into focus, precision, and determination. Panic is a luxury no soldier can afford. Hesitation is often fatal. Each heartbeat becomes a negotiation with instinct, a balance of fear and discipline that defines the reality of combat. Amid the chaos, the conscript witnesses the fragility of life. Comrades fall unexpectedly, victims of chance, error, or superior enemy tactic. The immediacy of death becomes undeniable. It is omnipresent, patient, and indiscriminate. Yet even in this maelstrom, the conscript also observes resilience, the rapid recovery of injured comrades, the unyielding advance of units under pressure, the silent courage of those who act decisively in moments when instinct alone could falter. Survival is not heroic, it is disciplined, precise, and collective. The battlefield itself teaches lessons that no drill instructor could convey. Terrain is unpredictable. Rubble, mud, and craters become obstacles and hazards, shaping movement and strategy. Smoke, fire, and debris obscure vision, demanding heightened awareness and sensory adaptation. The conscript learns to read subtle signs, anticipate enemy maneuvers, and coordinate with comrades, developing an intuitive understanding of space, timing, and danger. Each observation, each reaction, is critical to survival. Amid this chaos, small victories are amplified. Successfully coordinating a maneuver, neutralizing a threat, or aiding a comrade becomes a testament to discipline, awareness, and training. These moments, fleeting yet profound, anchor the conscript, reinforcing confidence, skill, and the ember of humanity that endures even under the relentless pressure of war. Each success, however small, is a reminder that survival is possible, even in the most overwhelming circumstance. The first real engagement leaves a permanent mark. The conscript emerges changed, hardened by fear, experience, and the raw immediacy of mortality. Reflexes are sharpened, decision-making becomes instinctive, and the reality of war is fully realized. Yet beneath the layers of survival, discipline, and skill, the ember of humanity remains, a quiet, defiant presence, sustaining the soldier through the relentless, unforgiving reality of the front line. And as the smoke clears, and the sounds of battle fade into distant echoes, the conscript is left with a profound understanding. War is not a series of exercises, drills, or theoretical lessons. It is chaos, fear, endurance, and instinct. It is collective struggle, constant vigilance, and the mastery of both body and mind. And above all, it is survival, tempered by discipline, resilience, and the fragile ember of humanity that persists even in the heart of the Imperium's most merciless conflict. The conscript quickly learns that the first engagement is merely an introduction to a world of perpetual danger. The battlefield shifts constantly, and what seemed like victory one moment becomes vulnerability the next. Artillery strikes, enemy reinforcements, and environmental hazards create an unending cycle of tension. There is no pause, no respite. The front lines demand immediate adaptation. constant awareness, and absolute obedience. Every action, from aiming a rifle to choosing cover, carries the weight of life and death. In these moments, discipline becomes more than training, it becomes instinct. The conscript's body reacts before thought, movements precise and efficient, shaped by the countless repetitions drilled into muscle memory. Yet even this preparation is tested. Relentless explosions disorient, smoke blinds, and the screams of the fallen create a cacophony that challenges the mind's focus. Survival depends on the seamless integration of instinct, observation, and training, a balance that is fragile but essential. Comrades become extensions of the conscript's senses. A quick glance, a subtle gesture, or a shift in stance communicates intentions, warnings, or guidance. Without words, trust is absolute. Hesitation or miscommunication can cost lives instantly. These bonds, forged in training and strengthened in previous quiet intervals, are now tested under the harshest conditions. The conscript realizes that while individual skill is important, collective cohesion determines whether a unit survives or is annihilated. The battlefield is not just a measure of courage, it is a measure of unity, communication, and mutual reliance. Enemies exploit every weakness with relentless precision. Tyranids move like a single organism, overwhelming positions with sheer numbers and predatory instinct. Chaos cultists strike with madness-driven unpredictability, exploiting hesitation and fear. Xenos forces employ advanced tactics and technology, forcing the conscript to continuously adapt. Each encounter reinforces the brutal truth: the front lines are impartial, merciless, and unforgiving. Survival demands constant vigilance, adaptability, and unwavering focus. The conscript experiences the raw immediacy of mortality. Death is sudden, indiscriminate, and omnipresent. Comrades, once familiar and steadfast, are removed from the world in an instant, leaving only echoes of their presence. The emotional weight is crushing, yet it reinforces discipline and sharpens instinct. Fear is acknowledged but controlled. Grief is processed silently, and focus is maintained, because hesitation could mean death. In this crucible, the conscript's understanding of life, death, and duty is forged anew. Even amidst chaos, moments of clarity emerge. Small successes, a coordinated attack, the neutralization of a threat, or the rescue of a comrade, provide fleeting relief and reinforcement. These victories, though often overshadowed by the scale of destruction, anchor the soldier's confidence, illustrating that disciplined action can yield tangible results. Every triumph is a testament to preparation, instinct, and the ember of humanity that continues to burn quietly beneath layers of fear and exhaustion. The battlefield is also a harsh instructor in patience and timing. Rushing into action without thought can be fatal. Hesitation can be equally deadly. The conscript learns to gauge the rhythm of combat, to identify patterns in enemy behavior, and to anticipate both threats and opportunities. Each decision, each movement, is measured against the unrelenting calculus of survival. This awareness, sharpened under fire, becomes a defining aspect of the soldier's skill, marking the transition from a conscript shaped by training to one tempered by real combat experience. Exhaustion becomes a constant companion. Physical strain, sensory overload, and mental fatigue accumulate with every engagement. Yet, the conscript discovers reserves of endurance previously unknown, sustained by discipline, instinct, and the quiet determination to survive. Each action, whether crawling across open terrain, maintaining weapon readiness, or coordinating with comrades, is a testament to the human capacity to endure even when the body and mind are pushed beyond ordinary limits. In these first engagements, the conscript also witnesses the paradox of war. Destruction and creation intertwine. The battlefield is a landscape of ruin, yet every act of disciplined strategy, every successful maneuver, and every moment of cohesion among soldiers represents a fragile triumph of order over chaos. The conscript internalizes this duality, understanding that survival requires both acceptance of the brutality of war and the deliberate cultivation of skill, awareness, and unity. By the end of the first real engagement, the conscript emerges transformed. Reflexes are honed, decision-making becomes instinctive, and the weight of mortality is understood not as fear, but as a measure of responsibility and awareness. The soldier is no longer merely following orders, they are living the lessons of survival, discipline and humanity in the unrelenting crucible of combat. Each heartbeat, each step, each decision is now tempered by experience, shaping the conscript into a soldier capable of enduring the chaos and horrors of the Astra Militarum. Each encounter is a lesson, each engagement a teacher, and every fallen comrade a grim reminder of the stakes. Awareness becomes an instinct, honed through repetition, fear, and necessity. Movements are no longer conscious decisions alone, they are extensions of the mind, reactions sculpted by experience, training, and the relentless pressure of survival. The first real combat engagement also teaches the conscript the brutal arithmetic of war. Resources are finite, ammunition is precious, and every action must be measured against both immediate threats and long-term survival. Decisions that might seem trivial, choosing cover, allocating firepower, or timing a maneuver, carry consequences that ripple across the battlefield. The soldier learns to weigh instinct against strategy, to balance caution with aggression, and to recognize that survival is not a matter of chance, but of careful, disciplined calculation. Fear remains a constant presence, yet it is now tempered by experience. The conscript understands that panic is lethal, hesitation costly, fear is acknowledged, analyzed and directed, transformed into focus, speed and precision. Each heartbeat becomes a rhythm, a metronome for disciplined action, guiding movements and decisions in the midst of chaos. Courage, once theoretical, emerges as controlled mastery over instinct, a tool to navigate the unpredictable and lethal environment of real combat. The human cost of war becomes undeniable. Comrades, once familiar faces of training and shared hardship, are struck down in moments, leaving echoes of screams and memories imprinted on the mind. The conscript grapples with grief silently, understanding that emotional indulgence can compromise focus and survival. Yet, these losses also reinforce bonds, trust and cohesion among the remaining soldiers. Each survivor carries the weight of those who fell, their memory transforming into discipline, determination, and the drive to endure. Coordination and communication are elevated to lifeline. Non-verbal cues, subtle signals, and rapid understanding of comrade behavior become critical. The conscript realizes that the battlefield is not merely a place of action, but a complex network of shared awareness, where survival hinges on collective perception and instantaneous collaboration. Unity is survival. Individual skill is necessary, but it is the cohesion of the unit that determines endurance. Adaptation becomes essential. The enemy is unpredictable, the terrain unforgiving, and the chaos of battle relentless. The conscript learns to read subtle patterns, anticipate movements, and respond with precision. Mistakes are costly, hesitation can be fatal. Each engagement forces the soldier to integrate instinct with tactical knowledge, transforming fear and uncertainty into calculated, deliberate action. Experience, more than training, becomes the measure of competence on the front lines. Amid the destruction, fleeting victories provide anchors of confidence. Successfully defending a position, rescuing a wounded comrade, or repelling an enemy advance are moments of affirmation, proof that discipline, preparation, and awareness can overcome the seemingly insurmountable chaos of battle. These successes, though small against the vast scale of war, reinforce both skill and spirit, sustaining the ember of humanity that persists even in the most merciless conditions. Exhaustion is ever present, yet endurance becomes ritualized. The conscript pushes through fatigue, pain, and sensory overload, relying on training, instinct, and sheer determination to maintain effectiveness. Each movement, each shot, each decision is a testament to the human capacity to endure beyond ordinary limits. The soldier learns to function, not only in spite of exhaustion, but because of the discipline and resilience forged in the crucible of repeated exposure to fear and danger. The first engagement also reveals the paradox of war. Destruction and order coexist, chaos and strategy intertwine. The battlefield is a landscape of ruin, yet every coordinated maneuver, every act of disciplined action, every collective effort, represents a fragile assertion of control. The conscript internalizes this duality, understanding that survival requires both acceptance of the brutality surrounding them and the cultivation of skill, unity, and awareness. In this balance lies the essence of soldiering on the front line. By the conclusion of this first combat engagement, the conscript is irrevocably changed. The theoretical understanding of war has been replaced by visceral knowledge. Training has evolved into instinctual precision. Fear has become a tool, not a must. The soldier is no longer merely a conscript obeying orders. They are an agent of survival, disciplined, aware, and hardened by the unrelenting realities of battle. Humanity, though tested, remains, sustained by connection, focus, and a quiet ember of resilience that persists even amidst destruction. And as the smoke settles and the echoes of battle fade, the conscript recognizes a profound truth. The front lines are not only a test of skill, but of endurance, discipline, and spirit. Every heartbeat, every step, every decision is a negotiation with life and death. Survival is neither heroic nor guaranteed. It is a product of preparation, unity, and a relentless mastery of fear and instinct. The first real combat engagement has been endured, and in its crucible, the conscript has been transformed into a soldier, capable of facing the unyielding horrors of the Astra Militarum. The conscript quickly understands that survival is inseparable from loss, and that every day spent in the trenches carries both physical and emotional tolls. Bodies are expendable, yet discipline and vigilance cannot be. Every step across scarred terrain, every act of obedience, every decision carries consequences that extend beyond the self. The battlefield is a teacher of endurance, and its lessons are harsh, uncompromising, and absolute. In these moments, the conscript witnesses the fragility of life with piercing clarity. Comrades fall suddenly, often without warning, victims of artillery, alien precision, or chaotic assault. Each death is immediate and uncompromising, leaving behind echoes of screams, abandoned equipment, and a silent weight of grief. Survival is no longer an individual matter. It is a negotiation with collective responsibility. Every action, no matter how small, has consequences that reverberate across the unit, demanding constant awareness and unyielding focus. Sacrifice is not theoretical, it is physical, mental, and moral. The conscript carries wounded comrades, distributes scarce supplies, and maintains positions that are strategically vital, but personally dangerous. Hunger, exhaustion, and fear are constant companions, yet discipline demands that the soldier persist. Each act of endurance is both practical and symbolic. Survival is measured, not only in the preservation of life, but in the ability to bear the burden of duty without yielding to despair. The battlefield is merciless, and yet, humanity persists. Small gestures, shielding a comrade, sharing water, providing encouragement, become lifelines in a world otherwise defined by destruction. These acts of sacrifice are not heroic embellishments, they are practical necessities reinforcing trust, cohesion, and the unspoken understanding that no soldier endures
alone. Even amidst chaos, the conscript begins to internalize that survival is a collective endeavor, strengthened through mutual reliance and disciplined action. Every day, the conscript confronts the relentless presence of fear. The ground trembles under distant bombardments, alien screams echo across the battlefield, and the landscape itself is a maze of danger. Fear is immediate, tangible, and inescapable, yet it is also instructive. The soldier learns to channel terror into vigilance, to convert instinctive panic into calculated action. Courage is revealed not as the absence of fear, but mastery over it, a quiet, deliberate command of self in the midst of overwhelming chaos. The toll of survival is cumulative. Hunger gnaws at the body, fatigue dulls the mind, and every new engagement compounds physical and psychological strain. Yet, the conscript discovers hidden reserves of endurance. Pain, exhaustion, and terror are acknowledged, but they do not dictate action. Each decision is deliberate, each movement intentional. The front lines cultivate a rhythm of survival, where instinct, discipline, and awareness converge, ensuring that even in the harshest conditions, the soldier remains capable of action. Witnessing sacrifice becomes a profound lesson. Veterans carry scars, both visible and invisible, testaments to their endurance and the losses they have endured. Some are silent, haunted by the weight of comrades who fell. Others continue with grim determination, a living testament to resilience. Observing them, the conscript learns that sacrifice is neither heroic nor glamorous. It is endurance, discipline, and the acceptance of reality in its most uncompromising form. Each soldier's survival is a mosaic of countless decisions, sacrifices, and moments of unflinching commitment to duty. The battlefield also demands adaptation. Terrain, enemy tactics, and environmental hazards shift continuously, forcing the conscript to adjust rapidly. Every movement, every calculation, every tactical choice is measured against both immediate and long-term consequences. Mistakes are costly, hesitation can be fatal. Survival is a constant negotiation with danger, a balance between instinct, strategy, and the disciplined application of experience. Here, the soldier's skill is refined not by theory, but by relentless exposure to lethal reality. Even in the face of relentless danger, small victories provide critical sustenance for the spirit. Successfully defending a position, rescuing a wounded comrade, or repelling an enemy assault reinforces discipline, coordination, and confidence. These moments, though often overshadowed by the vast scale of destruction, anchor the conscript's understanding that skill, preparation, and resilience can bend the chaos of the battlefield, even if only temporarily. Each victory is a fragile yet vital affirmation of endurance. In this environment, the conscript begins to comprehend the paradox of war. Survival requires both detachment and connection. One must act decisively, often in ways that risk life and morality, yet maintain the fragile ember of humanity that sustains both mind and spirit. Every act of sacrifice, every moment of vigilance, every decision carried out in fear and fatigue contributes to the soldier's evolving understanding of what it means to endure, and so, life on the front lines becomes a continuous lesson in survival and sacrifice. Every heartbeat, every choice, every act of endurance is imbued with meaning. Discipline is tested relentlessly, fear is constant, yet mastered. Humanity flickers but does not die. The conscript emerges not only as a participant in the Imperium's war machine, but as a witness to its cost, a soldier shaped by both endurance and loss, prepared to face the unyielding realities of the battlefield. The conscript learns quickly that survival is inseparable from sacrifice, not only of self but of comfort, security, and often morality. Every day on the front lines imposes a weight that is both physical and psychological. Sleep is fragmented, often interrupted by distant bombardments or sudden skirmishes. Meals are rationed, minimal, and consumed with efficiency rather than satisfaction. Hygiene is a calculation, maintained only to prevent infection or illness that could compromise readiness. Comfort, safety, and indulgence are luxuries denied by the relentless demands of survival. Fear is a constant companion, yet it becomes a tool rather than a master. Every sound, every shadow, every twitch of the enemy's advance is analyzed and measured. The conscript channels instinct into precision, uncertainty into focus, and terror into deliberate action. Courage is revealed not as heroism, but as control, an unyielding command of self under circumstances designed to unravel body and mind. Each heartbeat, each step, each calculated movement becomes an exercise in survival tempered by discipline. The weight of responsibility is immediate and ever-present. Comrades rely on the conscript whether through direct protection, coordination in combat, or mutual vigilance. One's own survival is tied inextricably to the survival of others. Hesitation or error can cost lives instantly, while decisive action may preserve them. The battlefield teaches that endurance is not a solitary endeavor. It is sustained through awareness, trust, and the disciplined execution of duty. The conscript internalizes that life here is fragile, fleeting, and shaped by countless small, deliberate choices. Witnessing the sacrifices of veterans imparts lessons both sobering and profound. Scarred bodies and haunted eyes tell stories of endurance, loss, and resilience. Some soldiers retreat inward, carrying trauma silently. Others continue with grim determination, performing each task with precision despite exhaustion, fear, and grief. The conscript understands that survival is not heroic, it is practical, measured, and often painful. The lessons of these veterans are internalized, shaping both behavior and understanding of what it means to endure in the unforgiving crucible of the front lines. Adaptation becomes a constant requirement. The battlefield shifts unpredictably, artillery alters terrain, enemy tactics evolve, and environmental hazards compound danger. The conscript learns to anticipate, react, and integrate observation with action. Mistakes are expensive. Hesitation can be fatal. Survival is a continuous negotiation between instinct, calculation, and the disciplined application of both experience and training. Each challenge sharpens skill, fortifies resolve, and reinforces the soldier's understanding that life on the front lines is an unceasing test of endurance. Even in the relentless environment of war, moments of connection offer sustenance. Shared tasks, quiet gestures, and subtle communications among comrades reinforce cohesion and morale. These small acts of humanity are not sentimental, they are lifelines, sustaining both practical coordination and the fragile spirit of survival. The conscript realizes that the ember of humanity persists only when nurtured, even amid exhaustion, fear, and chaos. Collective endurance becomes the means by which individual survival is achieved. The psychological cost of sacrifice is inescapable. Memories of the fallen, the noise of battle, and the omnipresence of death weigh heavily on the mind. Yet the conscript learns to integrate these experiences, transforming trauma into heightened awareness and disciplined vigilance. Emotional mastery is as vital as physical skill. Without it, fear and grief can erode focus, compromise survival, and imperil both self and comrade. Endurance is forged not only in strength, but in mental resilience. Small victories, even fleeting, carry immense significance. Successfully maintaining a position under assault, securing supplies, or aiding comrades reinforces confidence, skill, and discipline. These moments affirm that careful preparation, vigilance, and teamwork can momentarily bend the chaos of battle. Each success becomes a marker of survival, proof that even in a universe defined by destruction, the disciplined soldier can endure and act with purpose. Ultimately, the conscript internalizes the duality of war. Survival demands both detachment and connection. One must act decisively, sometimes at great personal cost, yet remain aware of humanity, camaraderie, and the principles that sustain the mind and spirit. Sacrifice is constant, endurance unrelenting, and the stakes absolute. Every heartbeat, every movement, every decision is a thread in the intricate fabric of survival on the front line. And so the conscript continues life amidst chaos and sacrifice, understanding that endurance is measured not only by skill in combat, but by the mastery of fear, the cultivation of awareness, and the ability to persist in the face of relentless adversity. Discipline is the soldier's shield, vigilance the weapon, and humanity the ember that illuminates a path through the merciless reality of war. Every ration shared, every comrade shielded, every ordered advance or retreat represents a deliberate negotiation between risk and endurance. The soldier quickly learns that these choices, though small individually, collectively determine the survival of the unit. Life on the front lines is therefore not a series of isolated events, but a continuum of decisions that demand awareness, focus, and moral consideration. The cost of survival becomes personal. Sleep is never complete. Exhaustion lingers in every muscle and dulls every reflex. Hunger gnaws quietly, yet must be ignored for the sake of readiness. Pain, whether from minor injuries, bruises, or the relentless fatigue of forced marches, is endured without complaint, acknowledged only to prevent compromise of function. Comfort is surrendered entirely to the discipline of endurance. Survival requires sacrifice, and the conscript understands that indulgence, hesitation, or distraction can cost lives. Each day becomes a test, not of heroism but of measured action under relentless pressure. Witnessing the aftermath of combat reinforces the conscript's understanding of sacrifice. Bodies litter the battlefield, some familiar, many anonymous. The screams, the shattered limbs, the devastation etched into the landscape, all are permanent lessons in mortality and the cost of survival. Yet amid this devastation, acts of human resilience persist. Comrades helping the wounded, coordinating defense, or sharing the smallest comforts. These acts are lifelines, not symbols of sentimentality, but vital threads of endurance that sustain both body and spirit. The conscript internalizes that survival is intertwined with both discipline and empathy. It is maintained through action as much as through awareness. Adaptation is constant, enemy tactics evolve, terrain shifts under bombardment, even weather conspires against the living. The conscript learns to observe every nuance, predict hazards, and react with precision. Mistakes are costly, hesitation lethal,
The battlefield is a relentless instructor, and its lessons are memorized not in books but in pain, vigilance, and repetition. Each engagement reinforces the necessity of mental acuity, physical readiness, and the unwavering commitment to the principles of survival under duress. Fear remains a persistent companion, yet it is now tempered by experience. Each heartbeat, each movement, each decision is colored by the lessons of past engagements and the anticipation of future threats. The conscript channels terror into focus, transforming instinctive panic into calculated action. Courage is revealed not as an absence of fear, but mastery over it, a constant, deliberate harnessing of human instinct to endure, adapt, and survive. The weight of responsibility deepens with every action. The conscript's choices impact comrades, influence the outcome of engagements, and sometimes determine life or death. Every moment of vigilance, every decision to act or hold position, is amplified by consequence. Survival is therefore inseparable from sacrifice. It demands constant awareness, unflinching discipline, and the quiet acknowledgement that the soldier's life is bound to the lives of those around them. Even amidst the relentless brutality of the front lines, moments of humanity emerge. Shared gestures, silent communications, and acts of support reinforce the bonds that allow survival to persist. These connections are fragile yet vital, sustaining the conscript's mind and spirit against the oppressive weight of war. They remind the soldier that humanity is not entirely lost, that resilience is both personal and collective, and that endurance is cultivated not only through training and skill, but through shared experience and mutual trust. The conscript also learns the harsh truth of inevitability. Not every action preserves life, not every choice succeeds. Casualties are unavoidable, missions are often grueling, uncertain, and incomplete. The ability to continue, to endure, to act with precision and discipline in the face of loss, becomes the measure of survival. Sacrifice is ongoing, the cost of life is constant, and the determination to persist is the ultimate test of a soldier's spirit. By the end of these grueling intervals, the conscript emerges, shaped, tempered, and hardened. Physical readiness is reinforced, mental acuity sharpened, and the understanding of sacrifice internalized. The battlefield has become both teacher and crucible, every wound, every ration, every maneuver contributing to the soldier's evolution. Life on the front lines is an unbroken cycle of endurance, vigilance, and survival, where every action matters, and humanity is preserved, not through comfort, but through discipline and connection. And so, survival and sacrifice are inseparable. The conscript understands that to endure is to continuously negotiate fear, pain, exhaustion, and mortality. Discipline is the shield that protects, vigilance, the weapon that ensures preparedness, and humanity the ember that persists. Despite the relentless demands of the Imperium's most unforgiving conflict, life on the front lines is harsh, unyielding, and merciless, but the soldier endures, learns, and perseveres, carrying both the lessons of sacrifice and the will to survive into every engagement yet to come. War is not only a test of body and skill, it is a relentless assault on the mind and spirit. For the conscript, the emotional toll of endless conflict is immediate and pervasive. Every battle, every loss, every act of sacrifice leaves its imprint, a subtle, yet insistent pressure that accumulates over time. The mind becomes both a battlefield and a refuge, where memories of horror, fear, and fleeting hope collide in a ceaseless struggle for equilibrium. The conscript begins to notice changes in perception, in thought, in the very rhythm of emotion. Laughter becomes rare, replaced by grim determination. Hesitation is replaced by calculated instinct. The screams of the fallen, once shocking, now echo faintly, haunting yet familiar. Sleep is shallow, haunted by recurring nightmares that blend past and present, reality and memory. Even brief moments of calm are tinged with anticipation, as the mind prepares constantly for the next inevitable engagement. Guilt becomes a quiet companion. The conscript is acutely aware of what could have been done differently, who could have been saved, what orders might have altered outcomes. These thoughts are merciless, recurring with the persistence of a specter. Even victories are tinged with sorrow, because survival often requires that others fall in one's stead. Each triumph is balanced by loss, each success shadowed by the price exacted on comrades, civilians, or the self. The weight of witnessing death is transformative. The battlefield spares no one. Friend and foe alike fall to indiscriminate violence. The conscript learns that detachment is necessary to maintain function, yet the mind rebels against total apathy. Memories of fallen comrades, of civilians caught in the crossfire, and of irreversible destruction linger, forming a mental burden that cannot be ignored. Emotional endurance becomes as essential as physical skill. Survival requires the ability to compartmentalize without losing the ember of humanity entirely. Isolation compounds the emotional strain. Even in a formation, surrounded by comrades, the conscript can feel the distance between thought and action, between memory and presence. Conversations are often clipped, laughter hollow, camaraderie practical rather than comforting. The mind constantly measures danger, survival and duty, leaving little room for reflection or genuine emotional release. These invisible pressures accumulate, shaping both behavior and perception, and teaching the soldier that endurance extends far beyond physical limits. The conscript also discovers the subtle ways the human mind copes. Humor emerges, often dark and fractured, as a tool to withstand fear. Rituals, however small, become anchors, cleaning weapons meticulously, repeating patrol routines, or reciting prayers and chants, provide a semblance of stability amidst chaos. Memory, reflection, and silent acknowledgement of loss serve as both burden and balm, allowing the soldier to process trauma in controlled, measured ways. Emotional management becomes as deliberate as tactical decision-making. Fear, while constant, is reshaped by experience. Initially raw and paralyzing, it evolves into a disciplined instrument, informing decisions and heightening awareness. The conscript learns to recognize panic, to channel adrenaline, and to act decisively, even as the mind registers danger. Courage is not absence of fear, it is the mastery of it. Each heartbeat, each breath, each choice is a negotiation between instinct and reflection, between terror and discipline. Even small victories carry emotional. Securing a position, protecting comrades, or overcoming an enemy assault reinforces confidence, yet they are never untainted by the cost. Survival is rarely simple or celebratory. Each success is a reminder of what was lost to achieve. The conscript internalizes that the emotional toll of war is ongoing, woven into every moment of vigilance, every interaction, and every act of endurance. In the quiet intervals between battles, reflection intensifies, memories, fears, and regrets emerge with clarity. The conscript contemplates mortality, duty, and the thin line separating survival from death. Even amidst relative safety, the mind does not rest. Emotional resilience becomes a skill, cultivated through observation, reflection, and the deliberate nurturing of the ember of humanity that persists despite unrelenting adversity. The conscript realizes that emotional endurance is inseparable from physical survival. Vigilance, discipline, and adaptability ensure life in combat, but mastery over fear, grief, and moral burden sustains the mind. The emotional toll of endless war is profound, yet survival depends on the ability to endure it, to act decisively in spite of it, and to maintain both cohesion with comrades and the fragile sense of self that defines humanity in a universe designed to strip it away. The conscript quickly learns that emotional endurance is tested, not only by combat, but by the constant anticipation of it. Every creaking floorboard, distant rumble, or unexplained movement triggers a surge of vigilance. The mind becomes attuned to danger, hyper-aware, and reluctant to rest even when the body demands it. This heightened perception, while essential for survival, carries a psychological cost. Tension becomes a default state, anxiety lingers, and moments of calm are shadowed by the inevitability of the next battle. Isolation deepens the psychological strain. Even surrounded by comrades, the conscript feels the weight of responsibility alone. Each decision can affect multiple lives. Hesitation may result in death. Comrades are both support and mirrors, reflecting fear, exhaustion, and trauma back in subtle, unspoken ways. Trust becomes essential, but the conscript learns that reliance carries risk. Mistakes, miscommunication, or misjudgment can devastate both unit cohesion and personal stability. Emotional resilience is no longer optional. It is a vital tool for continued survival. The conscript begins to understand the quiet cruelty of attrition. Each engagement leaves a residue of loss, fallen comrades, damaged infrastructure, and unhealed wounds. These are not easily forgotten. Memories linger, recurring in quiet moments, intruding upon sleep and coloring every perception of the battlefield. The soldier learns to acknowledge these memories without being consumed by them, balancing awareness with emotional control, and processing grief in ways that do not compromise discipline or operational efficiency. Fear is transformed into a double-edged instrument. While instinctive terror can be paralyzing, deliberate acknowledgement of danger sharpens perception and decision-making. The conscript learns to predict patterns, anticipate enemy movements, and react swiftly to unforeseen threats. This mastery of fear is critical, for hesitation in combat is fatal, yet the psychological toll is immense. Adrenaline cycles, hypervigilance, and trauma accumulate, shaping behavior and cognition in ways that endure long after immediate threats have passed. Guilt and moral conflict emerge as unrelenting companions. The conscript witnesses decisions that prioritize strategic necessity over individual welfare. Comrades fall to preserve positions, civilians are casualties of unavoidable conflict, and survival often demands acts that conflict with conscience. Each decision leaves its mark, embedding layers of ethical complexity into the soldier's experience. Emotional endurance, therefore, is inseparable from moral reconciliation, a continuous negotiation between duty and conscience that shapes the mind as decisively as battle shapes the body. Amid the chaos, moments of connection provide vital sustenance. Shared glances, brief conversations, and gestures of support become lifelines, reinforcing trust, cohesion, and morale. The conscript understands that survival is as much about relationships as it is about skill. Camaraderie becomes a buffer against the psychological pressures of war, and the ember of humanity persists through shared endurance. Even fleeting reassurance, a whispered word, or a shared ration can fortify the spirit in ways combat cannot. Emotional resilience is reinforced through repetition. Each engagement, each loss, each moment of fear reinforces the soldier's capacity to endure. Lessons are learned not in theory, but in lived experience. When panic surges, when grief intrudes, when fatigue threatens to collapse focus, the conscript responds with discipline, observation, and deliberate action. Survival is contingent upon the integration of emotion, instinct, and rational thought, a synthesis that transforms raw human response into deliberate mastery. The conscript also learns to find meaning amidst suffering. Victory is rarely complete, and loss is omnipresent, yet each small success affirms the value of effort, coordination, and endurance. Protecting a comrade, maintaining a position, or overcoming a tactical disadvantage provides both practical and emotional reinforcement. These moments, though often overshadowed by chaos, anchor the soldier, sustaining a fragile sense of purpose in a world designed to strip it away. Even in retreat or temporary safety, the psychological effects linger. Memories of past engagements surface, anxiety remains taut beneath the surface, and grief simmers quietly. Yet the conscript adapts, cultivating coping mechanisms, mental compartmentalization, ritualized routines, and silent reflection. These tools preserve clarity, maintain operational effectiveness, and protect the ember of humanity that persists, despite the relentless demands of endless war. And so, the conscript learns that emotional endurance is inseparable from survival. Discipline, vigilance, and skill ensure life in combat, but mastery of fear, grief, and moral complexity sustains the mind. The psychological toll of endless war is profound, yet it is met with equal measures of resilience, reflection, and camaraderie. The soldier emerges tempered by experience, capable not only of facing external threats, but of navigating the internal battlefield that rages within every heartbeat, every choice, and every breath. The conscript soon realizes that emotional endurance is not a static skill, it is dynamic, evolving with each engagement, each loss, each moment of terror and triumph. The mind becomes both shield and battlefield, constantly negotiating the tension between instinctive fear and deliberate action. Memories of past horrors intermingle with anticipation of future threats, creating a relentless internal rhythm that mirrors the chaos of the external world. To survive, the soldier must navigate both with equal precision. Sleep is fragmented and shallow, haunted by echoes of battle and the faces of fallen comrades. Dreams are often invaded by flashes of explosions, screams, and the oppressive weight of mortality. Even in moments of relative calm, the mind remains alert, scanning for threats, rehearsing possible scenarios and replaying past mistakes. The conscript learns to harness this hyper-awareness, turning potential paralysis into a tool for vigilance and decision-making. Emotional endurance, like physical discipline, becomes an instrument of survival. Guilt and grief are omnipresent. Every decision made under fire carries consequences, sometimes life, often death. The conscript bears witness to the unintended casualties of war: comrades lost to miscommunication, civilians caught in the crossfire, missions compromised by unforeseen variables. These realities are inescapable, embedding themselves into the soldier's psyche. Yet, through reflection and disciplined acknowledgement, the conscript learns to integrate these experiences, preserving mental clarity while honoring the weight of sacrifice. Fear, once raw and paralyzing, is transformed into a constant guide. The conscript becomes adept at recognizing panic, channeling adrenaline, and converting instinct into decisive action. Courage is redefined, not as absence of terror, but as mastery of it, a deliberate and conscious command of body and mind. Each heartbeat, each breath, each movement is informed by lessons learned in previous engagements, reinforcing the delicate balance between survival and emotional integrity. Comradeship, fragile yet essential, becomes a lifeline. Even in the midst of chaos, shared understanding, subtle gestures, and moments of silent support strengthen cohesion and morale. The conscript understands that survival is not an individual endeavor, it is collective, reliant on trust, communication, and mutual endurance. Humanity persists, not only through discipline, but through connection, through acts of empathy and solidarity that defy the relentless pressure of war. The conscript also confronts the moral paradox of duty,
focus, and resilience. Rituals, routines, and subtle practices of reflection allow the soldier to maintain clarity and operational effectiveness while preserving the ember of humanity that persists even in the Imperium's most merciless conflicts. By the conclusion of this chapter, the conscript emerges both hardened and aware. The mind, tested and tempered by fear, grief, and moral complexity, has evolved alongside the body, ready to endure the next engagement. Emotional endurance, learned through reflection, experience, and disciplined management of fear and loss, becomes as vital as skill with weapons or tactical knowledge. The soldier understands that survival depends equally on mastery of both external and internal battlefields, and so, the conscript faces the endless war with a new comprehension. Every heartbeat is a negotiation with fear, every breath a conscious assertion of resilience, and every decision a balance between survival and humanity. The emotional toll is immense, the burden constant, yet through discipline, camaraderie, and internal fortitude, the soldier endures. The lessons of fear, grief, and moral compromise shape a consciousness capable of navigating the merciless demands of the front lines, while preserving the quiet ember of human spirit that defines the Astra Militarum soldier. The battlefield is a relentless teacher, and its lessons are neither gentle nor forgiving. For the conscript, every engagement, every loss, every fleeting victory forms an accumulation of understanding, a mosaic of experience that shapes both body and mind. The harsh realities of war reveal themselves not as abstract concepts, but as visceral truths. Survival demands vigilance, endurance, and the unwavering acceptance of sacrifice. Each lesson is etched into muscle memory, reinforced by instinct and tempered by the persistent weight of mortality. Through repeated exposure to danger, the conscript internalizes the impermanence of safety. Cover is temporary, positions are transient, and advantage is fleeting. The front lines do not wait. They move, shift, and demand immediate adaptation. Soldiers who hesitate are left behind, casualties to both enemy forces and the unforgiving environment. The conscript learns that preparedness is not optional, it is a constant requirement. Every movement, every observation, every decision must be deliberate, precise, and informed by experience. Experience becomes the ultimate teacher. Mistakes, once trivial in drills and training, carry consequences that are immediate and often fatal. Each misstep imparts understanding, shaping instinct and reinforcing the necessity of discipline. The conscript learns to observe not only the enemy but the battlefield itself, the subtleties of terrain, the signs of ambush, the rhythms of artillery, and the faint traces of prior engagements. Awareness is honed into instinct, and instinct becomes survival. The harsh lessons extend beyond skill and perception. They touch the very core of human endurance. Fatigue, fear, hunger, and grief are constant companions. The conscript learns to function despite exhaustion, to act despite terror, and to maintain clarity even as emotional burdens accumulate. Discipline becomes both shield and guide, shaping behavior and providing structure within the chaos. Survival is no longer a matter of chance. It is the product of rigorous observation, careful calculation, and the ability to endure physically, mentally, and emotionally. Loss remains an ever-present teacher. Comrades, once familiar and trusted, are removed from the battlefield without warning. Their absence is a constant reminder of mortality and the cost of survival, yet each loss reinforces cohesion, trust, and responsibility. The conscript understands that endurance is collective, survival is rarely an individual achievement. The lessons of sacrifice are ingrained through observation, action, and reflection. Every moment of vigilance, every act of courage, and every instance of decisiveness carries weight far beyond the self. The battlefield also teaches the value of humility. Pride, complacency, or overconfidence are dangerous companions. The conscript quickly learns that no skill, no training, and no courage guarantees safety. Survival requires constant awareness, adaptation, and the recognition that the front lines are impartial arbiters. Lessons are repeated in harsh cycles, positions lost, attacks repelled, comrades fallen, victories won, all reinforcing the understanding that war is both relentless and indifferent. Yet amidst this unyielding environment, moments of growth and understanding emerge. The conscript begins to recognize patterns, anticipate threats, and execute maneuvers with instinctive precision. Small victories, holding a position, rescuing a comrade, overcoming an ambush, provide affirmation, reinforcing skill, discipline, and confidence. Each success, though minor against the vast scale of conflict, contributes to the soldier's evolving mastery of survival. The road ahead is defined by both caution and determination. The conscript comprehends that the battlefield is a continuum of challenges, each requiring vigilance, adaptability, and endurance. The lessons learned about fear, loss, discipline, and human resilience become the foundation for future engagement. Survival is not static. It is dynamic, evolving with experience and circumstance. Every decision, every action, every measured risk shapes both immediate outcomes and long-term growth. Discipline, once an abstract principle taught in training, is now lived experience. The conscript understands that orders, structure, and routine are not burdens, they are instruments of survival. Obedience is a tool, coordination is a lifeline, and vigilance is a shield. The soldier internalizes that the efficacy of the unit is inseparable from the discipline of its individuals, and that each act of precision, endurance, and awareness contributes to collective survival. Finally, the conscript reflects on the human element of war. The battlefield may strip away comfort, safety, and innocence, but it does not extinguish the ember of humanity. Acts of camaraderie, shared hardship, and mutual protection reinforce identity, morality, and spirit. The soldier understands that survival is not solely a physical or tactical achievement, it is also an emotional and moral journey. Endurance depends as much on preserving human connection and empathy as on skill with weapons or tactical knowledge. And so, the conscript moves forward, shaped by the harsh lessons of war and the unrelenting demands of survival. Every heartbeat, every choice, every sacrifice informs the path ahead. The road is uncertain, perilous, and unforgiving, yet the soldier is prepared not only through training and experience, but through the internalized understanding of fear, loss, discipline, and human resilience. The battlefield has taught its lessons, and the conscript, tempered and vigilant, walks into the future equipped to endure whatever challenges may come. The lessons of war extend beyond immediate survival. They shape perception, decision-making, and the understanding of duty itself. The conscript learns to read the battlefield like a living entity, anticipating threats not just from enemies but from the environment, the tides of engagement, and the shifting morale of comrades. Awareness becomes instinctive, a constant calculation that merges experience, observation, and intuition. Each decision is informed not only by strategy, but by the accumulated knowledge of countless previous encounters. Sacrifice remains a constant companion. The conscript sees that survival is rarely achieved without cost. Positions lost, comrades fallen, and opportunities forsaken to preserve the greater good. These sacrifices are both practical and moral, requiring the soldier to weigh immediate outcomes against long-term survival and cohesion. Each act of endurance reinforces the understanding that survival is not a matter of individual courage alone, but of shared responsibility and disciplined execution. Fatigue is omnipresent, yet it becomes a metric of resilience. The conscript learns to operate beyond ordinary limits, to continue acting decisively despite hunger, pain, and exhaustion. Physical endurance is inseparable from mental fortitude. Strength without awareness is insufficient, and awareness without action is futile. Each day, each engagement, and each challenge is a test of the soldier's capacity to maintain this balance, a relentless training ground where the mind and body are continuously refined. The battlefield is also a teacher of humility. No skill, no plan, and no preparation guarantees victory. Even the most disciplined soldier is subject to the caprice of circumstance. Ambushes, environmental hazards, and the unpredictable movements of enemies introduce chaos that cannot be entirely mitigated. The conscript learns that adaptability, vigilance, and the acceptance of uncertainty are as crucial as marksmanship, coordination, or tactical knowledge. Survival depends on humility, recognizing limitations, respecting the unpredictability of war, and responding with measured precision. Comradeship, forged through shared hardship, becomes the foundation of endurance. The conscript observes that trust, communication, and mutual reliance are the invisible threads that hold the unit together. Acts of cooperation, subtle gestures, and disciplined coordination create a collective resilience that surpasses individual skill. Even in the midst of destruction, the bonds between soldiers sustain focus, morale, and the will to persevere. Survival is inseparable from these connections, and humanity persists through the quiet recognition of shared struggle. The conscript also gains an understanding of the broader consequences of war. Each engagement, each strategic choice, and each act of survival carries implications beyond the immediate battlefield. Civilians, logistics, and the larger scope of military objectives frame the context in which every decision is made. The soldier recognizes that understanding the battlefield requires both attention to detail and comprehension of the larger picture, and that endurance demands an integration of tactical precision with situational awareness and moral consideration. Moments of reflection reveal the paradox of the soldier's existence. The battlefield strips away comfort, safety, and certainty, yet it also cultivates discipline, awareness, and resilience. Every loss, every fear overcome, every decision made under pressure contributes to a growing mastery of both external and internal reality. The conscript comes to understand that war is not only a series of tactical engagements, but a continuous process of learning, adaptation, and moral negotiation. Small victories continue to hold disproportionate weight. Securing a strategic position, repelling an enemy assault, or rescuing a comrade becomes both practical success and emotional reinforcement. Each achievement reinforces skill, focus, and confidence, reminding the conscript that deliberate action and disciplined endurance can bend the chaos of war, even if only momentarily. These victories, while often overshadowed by the enormity of conflict, are essential markers of both survival and growth. The conscript's perception of danger and mortality evolve. Death is no longer abstract. It is an omnipresent reality, influencing every movement, every choice, and every heartbeat. Yet the soldier also recognizes the fragility and value of life, both their own and that of comrade. This duality, awareness of mortality combined with the will to endure, becomes the foundation of survival. Discipline, skill, and emotional resilience are strengthened through the constant negotiation of this balance, shaping the soldier into a fully integrated agent of endurance. And so, the conscript moves forward along the road ahead, carrying the cumulative lessons of countless engagements. Every heartbeat, every calculated movement, and every act of discipline reflects the understanding that survival is a synthesis of skill, endurance, awareness, and humanity. The battlefield has imparted knowledge through hardship, shaped the mind through reflection, and tempered both body and spirit through relentless trial. The soldier emerges prepared to face whatever awaits,
not through certainty or bravado, but through disciplined mastery, resilience, and the unwavering understanding of what it truly means to endure. The road ahead is uncertain, yet the conscript walks it fortified by the lessons of the battlefield. Each engagement has taught that survival is never guaranteed, and that endurance demands both skill and insight. The soldier has learned to read danger before it strikes, to act decisively under pressure, and to navigate the fragile intersection of instinct and calculation. Every heartbeat, every breath, and every deliberate movement is a testament to experience, tempered by discipline. The harsh lessons of war are not limited to the physical domain. The conscript has come to understand that mental and emotional resilience are equally vital. Fear, grief, and guilt are persistent companions, shaping perception and influencing decisions. Yet the soldier learns to harness these emotions, converting them into vigilance, focus, and the quiet determination necessary to endure. Courage is no longer a dramatic act. It is a constant mastery over fear, a deliberate choice, made in every action, every step, and every engagement. Sacrifice remains central to the soldier's existence. Comrades have fallen, positions have been lost, and opportunities forsaken to preserve the collective. The conscript understands that these sacrifices are neither random nor meaningless. They are integral to survival, cohesion, and the continuation of the mission. Each act of endurance, no matter how small, contributes to the broader tapestry of life on the front line. Survival is never solitary. It is forged through shared responsibility, mutual reliance, and disciplined execution of duty. The battlefield continues to teach humility. No skill guarantees safety. No plan guarantees victory. Adaptability, awareness, and the acceptance of uncertainty are essential. The conscript has internalized that survival is as much about responding to unforeseen circumstances as it is about executing orders or honing skill. Flexibility, observation, and calm under pressure are as critical as weapon proficiency, tactical knowledge, or physical strength. Comradeship remains a lifeline, reinforcing both morale and practical survival. Trust, coordination, and subtle gestures of support sustain the soldier's mind, as much as training sustains the body. These connections are fragile yet essential, proving that humanity endures even in the most merciless circumstances. Each shared hardship, each act of protection, and each moment of solidarity strengthens cohesion, fortifies spirit, and cultivates resilience. The conscript understands that survival is a collective endeavor, dependent on both discipline and connection. Reflections on the broader consequences of war reveal a deeper understanding of duty. Every engagement, every tactical decision, and every act of sacrifice carries implications beyond the immediate battlefield. Civilians, logistics, and the larger strategic objectives frame the context in which survival is pursued. The soldier recognizes that endurance is not simply physical, it is also intellectual and moral, requiring awareness of consequence, recognition of responsibility, and acceptance of the weight of each decision. The conscript also comprehends the paradox of war. Destruction coexists with order, chaos with discipline, and despair with resilience. Every loss, every act of endurance, and every measured response reinforces understanding and fortifies resolve. The battlefield is both teacher and crucible, shaping mind, body, and spirit with equal intensity. The soldier emerges from each engagement refined, tempered, and prepared, carrying with them not only skill and experience, but also insight into the profound realities of survival, sacrifice, and humanity. Small victories continue to punctuate the relentless march of war. Holding a position, rescuing a comrade, or achieving a strategic goal provides both practical reinforcement and emotional sustenance. These successes, while minor compared to the scale of conflict, serve as vital reminders of the power of discipline, focus, and resilience. Each victory affirms the conscript's capacity to endure, adapt, and act decisively despite the chaos and destruction that define life on the front lines. Ultimately, the conscript understands that survival is a synthesis of physical skill, mental acuity, emotional resilience, and moral awareness. Discipline guides action, vigilance informs perception, and humanity sustains the spirit. Each heartbeat, each decision, and each act of endurance is a testament to the cumulative lessons of experience. The soldier has been forged through hardship, tempered by sacrifice, and strengthened by the relentless demands of war. And so, The road ahead stretches into uncertainty, yet the conscript walks it with understanding, vigilance, and resolve. The battlefield has imparted knowledge through hardship, resilience through sacrifice, and clarity through reflection. Every encounter has honed skill, sharpened perception, and strengthened spirit. Survival is no longer merely a hope. It is a practice, a discipline, and a constant assertion of mastery over fear, loss, and chaos. The soldier steps forward, tempered by experience, prepared for the unknown, and sustained by the unwavering ember of humanity that endures even amidst the unrelenting horrors of the Astra Militarum's endless war.